I had a few comments to start off. Tucker and I are friends, and I really like his work, and I enjoy talking about it. I was always, I went through the catalog, and all the pictures are nice and sharp, but if you notice, Tucker has a smooth, kind of fuzzy, and it makes everything soft, and I like that. When you get up close, everything's kind of soft. And one time when I was at his house, I just wondered how he did that, but I looked at his brushes. He's got a lot of brushes that are, worn down and grungy and kind of not clean very well, and I thought, oh, that's how you get that, no hard lines. One of the things I'm going to emphasize is geology. I think Tucker is very into geology. Most people in Wyoming, we've got lots of rocks, no shortage of rocks. And he uses rocks and landscape to direct the viewer in the paintings. And that's one thing I like about his artwork is it's not just an animal he's painting, it's a landscape. And he melds them together so easily. He uses, big blocked-in areas of trees and spruce and sagebrush, but nothing is very distinct, but it all brings the painting together. And he uses water and reflection. I notice how he really likes to do reflections in water. So what I'm going to do is go around and just talk about a few of the paintings that I really like. And if you have any questions as I go along, please, or you don't understand what I'm talking about, just ask questions. Below Cap Mountain. I don't know where Cap Mountain is. Anyway, in this painting, if you notice there on the vegetation, they're kind of separated into rocks, trees, sagebrush. And he's using kind of a Z to bring you down to the deer. And it's a lot of the painting. I mean, the deer aren't all that big, but it makes you enjoy the landscape too and appreciate the landscape. I'm particularly fond of this Monty's shortcut. Anybody who's been on a pack trip realizes just what's going on up here, and stepping between rocks and leading the pack horse. He's gotten off his horse to lead the pack horse because it's
too steep.
And he used the clouds to bring you right down to the guide here who's leading the pack horse. And again, I find it's a Z, and I want to bring your attention to the rocks. Again, geology. I think in order to paint rocks, you have to understand erosion. Because the way rocks erode is really part of the story of rocks. And sometimes people paint rocks and they look like baked potatoes. But all of Tucker's rocks have form.
We're going to use that.
And if you come up closely and look at the colors, all the colors he's mixed in, they're not just brown rocks, they're blue and they're ochre and there's reds, and I really like that about his, how he brings all those colors into rocks. And I think people, sometimes when they look at artwork, they don't really see what the colors are in the rocks. And this painting fascinates me. It looks great from a distance. When I get up closer, I don't relate as much, but using the verticals of the aspen is a great way to bring you down to the elk herd. And the lighting, particularly, is all on top, and then it's on the top of the elk as well. I'll skip by this big boy. Tucker likes to do the macho males. I had to say that. This is a very peaceful scene. Again, if you come close, these are just blobs of paint. They're not really you know, the forms are there, but they're not there. And again, he's using the geology of the snow pattern to bring you down through the valley and where the horses are very peacefully grazing. And the reflections in the water. Some of the other pictures that he has reflections in, they're much more definite, but he's, you know, that's a fascinating, and you know, you have the top reversed in the bottom, so it brings you up to the one of my favorite in Tucker's, somehow I had in my mind when I got home, I thought this was a much larger painting because the scene is so big. And I think it's so great. Tucker hardly ever paints the Tetons. And I like that because, you know, we have so much, Tetons are nice, and Conrad Schwerin kind of did that, took that to the nth degree. But this picture is so, I mean, that could be on the North Platte, or what is this, Sietskede, or is this, I'm not sure where this is, but the flow of time.
Is it down by the Green River?
Is it? Yeah, I think it's Sietskede. But again, look at his geology. He's got the, you know, the colors in the various levels, and he's used that to. It's a huge painting, I think, in my mind. This painting again shows off his knowledge of geology and how rocks erode, and he's used the lines of the rock to bring you down to the sheep. And again, he's got his verticals all drawing you into the center of the painting. And you need to look closely at the colors in the rocks here. There's gold, there's blue, there's you know, oranges, and then there's a little snippet of ice or snow up here. Another pointer down to the Tucker's really great on bears. I think he must be his totem, because his bears have lots of personality, and the composition in this one is dominating as some of his other paintings. You know, where the rocks are so important, you can tell how much time Tucker spent on the mountains. This is a very strong geologic painting. I'm not sure where this was. Oh, this is Canada, Alberta, Canada. I was going to say it doesn't look like it's around here. This is almost oriental to me because nature is big and the animals are small. And interesting. I don't find as much directional management of the viewer in this, but you go to the sheep and how peaceful they are. One of the things I notice about many of his antelope paintings is that he breaks the horizon with horns and ears, and if you look at many of those antelope paintings, he's always breaking the plane with those, and I find that interesting. That's you know, I'm not sure I would do that in a painting, so it catches my attention. I wanted to ask Tucker about this painting because very rarely would you see that many full curl rams together. There would be a wider spread of age, although he has a few younger rams I see here. But this is one of my favorites here. Again, you know, when somebody really loves rocks, I can always tell. And, you know, this, you know, and the fanes, if you want to call them that. Again, they bring you down to a nice grassy area where sheep would be very comfortable. And I think it's a very natural painting. And you know, this could be very busy here. But you know, he's handled it so that you don't go to that first. You always go to the rocks and back. And again, look at come when you have a chance. Come and look. You know, there's a little bit of viridian and I don't know what he's mixing in there, but it's very pleasing. Anybody have brings your eye down out of the sky, right down that, and right up the valley to the horses? I know.
He talked about that. He said he always thinks about the viewer's eye and how you approach his paintings.
Right. We're always trying to keep the viewer in the painting. You know, if your eye tends to wander off the painting, you know, we just always try to, and we use directional blocks of trees or rocks to hold the viewer into the painting. Again, this is, you know, his rocks again. I was disappointed in that video that Mr. Beck, was it, who did? He didn't mention very much how important geology is in Tucker's painting. I think it's one of the most dominating parts of his painting is how he uses landscape. And we have here, he's just using the waterfall to bring you down to his big old fuzzy bear. That's a very nice looking bear. I think this is in Canada, no,
Yeah.
Glacier National Park. Again, you know, the whole flow is just, it's circular. You know, you kind of go up here and you hit this and you come back to the trees and the bears. So you're being kept within the story of the painting. This is very much Rungia's style. I mean, in that big painting that is it still out by the desk there with the big bird and the little calves in there, and he's got his big bull out in front there. This was the other painting with the aspens that I was really taken with, because I love aspen anyway, and those bark are just lovely abstract patterns. See, he's using blocks of color too. This is, you know, if you just look at the blocking in and then the verticals, that's just marvelous design, I think. And to have the deer's head down is just very natural. This one is great because of the foreground being in shadow and the background in the sunlight. And again, if you get close, you can see that, you know, and Rungius did that. That's what fascinates me about Rungius. You know, some of the wild areas around an animal are just abstract art. You know, there's very little, I mean, it's just wild. And Bob Kuhn does that too. I mean, a lot of his backgrounds are just playing with color, and I love these. You know, this is just a really nice shape to put the pack string in. I'm going to move over here. You know, these field sketches, that's where you can, that's the advantage of going out and painting in nature. You're not really trying to do a finished painting, but you get the colors of nature and the colors that you're going to use later on in a larger painting. They're all here. The color variation from a little bit of blue-green to the cooler greens, and then the blocked in of the rocks. He doesn't paint any baked potatoes. Yeah, this is just a really nice, pleasing landscape. Okay, here again, he's broken the horizon with the antelope's horns. And I don't know why that makes it very interesting. It actually connects the foreground with the background to do that. This is a very simple composition, but you know, it's all keeps your eye in there. Oh, this is the slide. Is this Grovant slide? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's using a topographic feature to bring your eye down to the animals. I like the way Tucker does a painting that you can move into. See, the backstring is going into this really nice meadow that all of us could enjoy. And yeah, I think that's part of the pleasure of his artwork, is that he's making our immediate geology more important by painting it. I mean, I never have been able to get out too much in the backcountry, so it's nice to bring that to me in the painting. Again, if you get close, you'll see that those rocks are just but they're the right color, you know, and you get the feeling you could walk in that grass. So. Tucker, I don't know where Tucker gets all these huge rams. We don't have, you know, rams in that large a group, so. But it's always nice to think that there are that many there. And he gets the curl on the horns, just the lighting on the horns is superb. And he, you know, the colors in the foreground are so intense, and even though the background is so kind of hazy and it's busy, I mean, that's a very complex set of mountains, but it's got distance, so you know there's this big valley in between, and that's how, you know, artists use color like that in order to create distance. Papa Buffalo here. I like it because he's got a piece of hay or something on his face there. You hardly ever see buffalo without some sort of hay, grass or hay decoration, so that's nice. And I think Tucker is looking at the past, feeling the past, and what it used to be like, you know, before we were here in large numbers. And it's nice to have, I like that. He's using the river here too to surround his, see, it's again, it's circular. And, you know, the background's there, but the oblong, you start over here and you know the river's coming back and you come to the herd and back to the buffalo. But if you look at his sagebrush, you know, that's just, we call that stubbling in color, you know, it's just, and I can see all those dirty brushes on his palette. Oh, they're real handy. It makes me want to go home and try it. This is very much a coon type. You know, there's a story. I like stories in paintings, not just an animal. You know, obviously he's coming into the cows, but he's got some competition over here from the other bull. And he separated the foreground with this nice horizontal shadow in the middle. Like, you know, he's he hasn't been part of this group, but he's headed that other group. I don't relate too well to some of his paintings from abroad. And I don't know. I've been in Europe and all that, but I don't think that was. I don't feel like that's the Tucker that I see most of the time. Peaceful, again, he's using a nice horizontal green of trees, but the elk are out in the meadow. That could be the base of the Grand right there, I don't know. But see, he didn't put the top in, so we can't here are his antelope again. See, he's put the horns. He's breaking that plane with horns again. I hadn't thought about that until I started looking through the whole catalog. That he was doing it quite often. It was an intentional thing. I don't know if he thinks about it. Look at the rabbit brush. This is abstract art. It's just, getting the right color and the feeling of those of you that walk out in the sagebrush and know rabbit brush, that's just right. And then there's a little bit of color here that has to be some lupin or something. I think the top and the bottom are probably just working sketches. In fact, isn't that in one of the other paintings? I can't remember. Anyway, but that's the value of plein air painting, is to go out and see, it makes you simplify nature while keeping the essence of what's there. You're simplifying the shapes. The mountains here in the background, that's just a shape and a color. This one has this is really abstract, I think, and she's really laying on the heavy paint there. But darks and lights and, it's just a field study. That looks like a Jim Bombeth. So both of these are really nice, but I think they're earlier works. Yeah, 76 and 77. You can see a progression in style, I think, from these two to later paintings. This one has a nice color, and I'm thinking that gray sky is what makes the foreground pop out. It's just very attractive, but there he's using weather. He uses weather a lot, but like Kuhn, most of the time clouds and stuff, unless it's a real integral part of the painting, clouds are not. They're just a design in the background. And I notice that with Bob Kuhn's paintings too, that the far background is usually very abstract and indistinct, but it's just there for suggestion. Uh, 1988. I think some of these ranch paintings were earlier. Were they earlier? Yeah. Because the style here is so different than the ones that are landscape based. And Tucker spends a lot of time, I think, and he has a huge variety of landscapes. Of course, we don't have any shortage of that here, but I mean, this is, I would give my eye teeth to have that painting. Anyway, but look at the depth in the painting, and he's just using colors and the mauve and the gray-green mountains. This is a fascinating painting with you know, from a distance, I like it a lot better than when I get close, but, you know, what a nice idea to have the horses going into the backcountry. Or are they mules or horses? I think there might be some mules in there. But there's even some interaction in the pack string between the animals, which creates, you know, they're not just walking, they have some activity going on. This is a classic bull, buffalo or bison. And here again, he's using a geologic feature to bring you down into the valley, and you come back to the buffalo. But you know, he usually has a geologic feature in the painting that help direct. You know, they give it interest, additional interest. You know, even this little bluff here in the background. You know, that's just. And the colors, if you follow the greens in the foreground and then in the midground, the greens, and then the blues start to move in, and then the far tree areas are mostly blue. That's how you know, and Tucker has a good sense of how to make things look round, like that nice belly on the buffalo. He's not flat, he's nice and round. Well, let's see, I think this is the only wall I haven't hit yet. He used the waterfall again here to accentuate the verticalness of the painting. And it also holds you from going off. The ramps are looking to the right, which could lead you right off the painting, but you're stopped by the waterfall. And you come back and look at all the geometric shapes of the rock. And it's a nice natural pose of the sheep, too. See here again in the antelope, he's broken the plane with the horns. And the sagebrush, I think it's a very intentional handling of sagebrush. Sagebrushes can be very complex. I think they're all little bonsai trees if you study sagebrush, and yet you don't want all that sharpness or harshness necessarily in a painting. You want something that feels good. So he's softened up sagebrush so that, you know, it looks like a nice place to walk, and that's where antelope would be. And all the colors are right. You haven't got any flowers? Yeah, he's got a few flowers in this, which is nice. A little bit of color thrown in. I really like this painting. Again, he's used sort of a time of day. It has to be late afternoon, and you know, the shadows are getting long, but the darker shadows in back, and there's hardly any distinct feature in the foreground. It's just colors and maybe the suggestion of trees. But using that color in the back makes this pop out, so that it's really, and all of these lines are leading up to this fellow on top who's pushing the hay around. I don't know if any of you have ever seen how these rakes work, but you know, they will pick up that load and come around and put it on this rack, which has a pulley, and it brings it up on top.
Kathy Whipper has done I got one of her paintings.
Yeah, you can see in this painting, see the rack that, but anyway, any more questions?
Laney, when you came through the first time, you pick up on all that, or like you're working on rocks now, so do you pay attention to baked potato versus rock? Or?
Well, I don't know, when I come and look at an exhibit like this, I think I, first of all, find the paintings that really appeal to me. And then I kind of relate to what I'm, you know, how can what Tucker's doing help me? And I always do that with Rungius. Rungius is, I mean, the color in Rungius is just overpowering. I wish I could do that. Anyway, so I don't know what I'm looking for in an exhibit. You know, we should really be proud that Tucker is a local boy, our boy.
Yes, right.
And I want to, since most of us are women here, I was thinking about if I wanted to say this, but I do. The team of Jean and Tucker, it is very important. I can't tell you how important Jean is to Tucker's success. She's the one that keeps the books. She contacts, you know, the museums and the galleries. She does all this social smooching with buyers and blah, 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 which leaves Tucker free to paint. And I credit Jean with a great deal of the success of Tucker. I wish I had a wife. Anyway, Jean's a great lady. And
Cliver's wife was like that too, wasn't she? Very helpful.
yeah, I didn't know John Clymer very
The
well.
rest, yes, she was, yes.
Yeah,
A lot the same.
yeah,
Charlie Russell.
And Charlie Russell.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
He kept giving stuff away.
He
and she
did.
said,
He
"That's
would
good, that."
give a painting away for a beer.
Yeah.
She said when they got married, we'll have no more of that.
Yeah.
There's like.
Well, it's just a very interesting team. So I'm happy for Tucker.
That's great.
But it's helpful to have you point out things,
I-
really,
That's great.
that I love
We
it.
went through with Tucker and it was totally different.
Yeah.
Was it?
Totally different.
Yeah.
Very.
Yes.
What did he say?
Well, I don't know, he never talked about the sky. He never talked about his baked potatoes. He never.
No,
He really didn't.
no, he didn't.
Talk about.
He doesn't realize how important geology is in his.
Well, I'm sure
He must,
he
because he's
must,
out
because he
in it
does
all
it,
the
but he
time.
doesn't verbalize it.
But he
Yeah.
talked a lot about when he painted the painting.
Yeah.
Correct.
The early ones
Oh,
and that
yeah.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
more than, yeah,
Yeah.
you gave us a
I
whole
noticed-
different perspective.
Oh, good, I'm glad.
You did.
It was
So
very
thank
different.
you for
Thank you for that.
pointing a lot of things
The whole
out
Z
for us.
thing.
The home. Well, the thing I like is a lot of them are just static, but you look at the one like that one from that side,
Yeah.
I was standing off to that side, and now here, you really see all the movement and you
Yeah.
can feel what's going on in it versus somewhere you're just more of a posed
Yeah.
bear. So he
Yeah.
does a little bit
I
of
love
everything.
your comment about the pronghorn horns.
Yeah, you know, it's
Yeah.
repeated over and over, and I wonder if he even realizes that he does that.
Right. Even the bear there, the ears are,
That he does.
Uh-huh.
you know,
Yeah,
placed
yeah,
in
breaking the further planes.
Pretty much they all are. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
talked about how he put himself in the painting, and then that last painting that took him forever. As he's painting, he said it's taking him longer to complete his work.
Which is the last thing.
The last one is that one with that line on the wall,
The line of fog
line
coming
of
down
fog.
and the
Oh.
and he
Line
said it
of
took him
horses.
5 months. He just finished it
Ah,
for the exhibit.
well, it takes me longer to finish too, but I think I'm just getting old. But maybe my style's changing a bit too. But that's interesting that he said that.
Yeah.
And he did talk about his change in style from his early work being very detailed to more impressionistic.
Yeah. I feel so lucky that the museum is here because it gave me an opportunity to see the greats. You know, Rungius and Bob Kuhn have had a huge
Yeah.
effect on me in my art, I think. Of course, you know, like Tucker, I have my own internal aesthetic that guides my paintings. And like Tucker's, people say, well, I know that's a LANEY because
Yes.
of some unknown way I express, I guess. And I think artists have to get to that point. Yeah, you know, a lot of the I don't mean this in a bad way. Amateur artists, they go to all these workshops, and every workshop, you know, they try to end up looking like the instructor. And I quit going to workshop a long time ago because I always ended up fighting with the instructor. You know, he wanted to tell me to do it this way. You know, I'm saying, no, this is how I feel, this is what I want to say.
That's right.
And I think the really great artists get to that. In fact, Bob Kuhn told me that when we were talking once. I said, you know, and he said, well, a lot of artists never get to that point. And, you know, Tucker is a good example of, you know, I mean, even his early work, I'm not sure, like that painting over there of the corral and the branch.
Yeah, right.
You know, I'm not sure that I would have recognized that that's a Tucker painting, but most of his wildlife, you know, I know
Right.
when I see it. I don't have to go see the signature, but I know it's Tucker.
But your colors and light are unique to you.
Yeah,
You know.
and my composition, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, so. Well, I'm honored that you asked me to come and talk, because I do like his work, so.
That's great.
We appreciate it.
It's a huge,
Yeah.
totally different perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
just,
was very helpful.
Good, well,
maybe we'll get some people to actually show it to.
well, I think that's the purpose of the museum, is to, I mean, I get criticized because sometimes I don't like some of the modernist stuff that's coming in, because I think people come to the museum to connect with animals and landscape.
Yes.
And, you know, if we get too far off, you know, getting artsy stuff, and I see this argument in the art world all the time about, you know, realism and modernism. And to me, modernism is the artist just having his psychological problems on canvas, and then the nature artists are actually going out into nature, and they put nature in front of people instead of their own personal psyche.
Right.
And I still get Tucker's personality, because he's making the choices of color and composition, in, you know, so he is teaching me, but I don't have to look at his personal problems. I'm looking at how he sees nature.
It seems like I see many artists in different medium category or call themselves visual storytellers now.
Oh,
Okay, so that's maybe part of that. I'm telling a story. And if you get my story, it doesn't, you know.
well, I call myself a naturalist artist, because
Yeah.
for some reason I just can't separate myself from what I see. You know, I make the choices of color and the composition, and that's probably my internal me coming out. But all of my ideas come from nature, all of them. And I live in this wonderful place.
Yes.
I feel sorry for people who live, you know, and have to go to the zoo or something, and
That's right.
Bart Walter once at one of the artist breakfasts for Western Visions, he said, oh, I wonder, where the hell do you live? You have all this wildlife. And you know, how lucky can we be?
That's right.
So, and I think that's the purpose of the museum here, is to share that with the viewers. And I don't care what people say, the average person that comes to this museum wants to feel good about wildlife and wants to connect.
Well, you like to know what you're looking at.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sorry, but a paper mache dog with hiking boots on, and
I love that dog though.
oh, you do.
That was a great, I wish I could have bought it. That was a great dog. I would have.
Yes, she would have.
I would have in a heartbeat.
I think it's fine, a few of those things, but I don't know.
Oh, that's cute. I love it.
I know that the
Plastic
families
penguins,
that come in with
They drive me
kids,
crazy.
they want to connect with what is real.
Yeah.
It's not intimidating.
Yeah,
I take my kid through the museums, no matter where we were, and it was always, okay, we're finding dogs today, or we're finding moose today. And that got them through whatever exhibit we were going to. But it's hard to look at, like, the Giracagus.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
The what?
Jericaris.
Giracaris, that owl down here.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know, to me, that's, even though I know it's an owl, or the geese, the Kinswood,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sometimes is difficult, even though that looked very real. I didn't know what story I was supposed to learn.
well, I got myself in hot water, there was an exhibit here, quite a few years ago, and, and they were huge panels, and this artist had taken all of well-known images of art and Salvador Dali'd it into something that was nihilistic. I was so offended by that exhibit, I couldn't believe it. And I said so in a letter to the editor, which got me in hot water.
Well, we kind of feel badly for Tucker because usually there'd be hundreds of people in
Yeah.
to see
Yeah.
this, you know. However, it is going around the country, so other people will see it.
Well, the pandemic
Where else
may
is it
last
going?
too, and
Yes.
that's so sad because
So
he
sad.
deserves
He deserves
the utmost
a normal
recognition.
season. I know.
That's
And
right.
I think he has received a lot of recognition in important institutions, but the general public needs to see this. It's
Where, does
exciting.
anyone know where else it's going?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's
There's a
going
list.
to Autry Museum and
Okay.
places in
It's going to
Oklahoma. And
California.
yeah, very important venues.
Yeah,
I think
it'll-
it's in the catalog where
Yeah.
where it's going.
A couple of pieces are. like
We
others
lose
are
that
art
refuge
pieces.
painting for 2 years.
Oh, that's the saddest
Oh,
thing of all.
hell.
I always begin there,
I
and
know.
I said that
know.
they would
We
never do
start
that again,
every
They
year.
lied.
and they lied.
That'll be hard to start a
The
tour.
elk and
The art,
I can't imagine crating all this up
I
for
can't,
tour.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
that
Yeah.
will.
oh,
It's
Yeah.
huge.
I love that.
that's a bummer.
Yeah,
It's just
it
wonderful.
really is.
Well, that and then Moose Falls used to be on the right.
Yeah, yeah,
Now Tim Carlson's
yeah,
back there, but,
yeah.
you know.
Right.
So when you were learning to paint, when Catherine took us through, she talked about her mentors. Wilcox told us about Clymer being one of his mentors. Who, as you've been painting?
I'm a fourth generation Colorado person, and to go to DU too. And I'm like Tucker. I did not like the art department at Denver University. They were just totally abstract. So I went into commercial art, and I had a wonderful professor, Sanderson, and he was, quite an older fellow. In fact, he was Estonian. He had been in the World War II and done translating in the services. But anyway, he was in commercial art, and I got a really great training in composition and design, and it shows in my work. And then after I graduated, I went to work for the Biological Sciences Curriculum Study. They illustrated biology books for high school biology books. And I spent 7 years doing that. And I had Jane Larson was the art director, and she had how lucky was I that I could go into painting what I loved, And then I did a stint working for Sierra Club environmentalists when I moved to Wyoming. Then I went back to art. And, as far as mentoring me, I think I have to name the people that influenced me, but I didn't have anybody.
Like a fairy godmother?
No. And I think, it's a huge handicap to be a woman wildlife artist. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of discrimination, even from, some of the men that I know respect my work. They do not consider me part of the good old boys club. I'm just, oh yes, there's LANEY. But that's it. And
And we say, yay, there's LANEY.
well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I feel that. I feel the support of the museum. Maybe, one of my biggest mentors is Jane Levino.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And Patty Boyd.
yes, yeah.
Patty Boyd brought me into the museum, and, got me knowing people on the staff and all that. And without her help, I don't think I would have had, Darwin's Legacy that show never would have happened without Jane Levino.
So we gotta thank them again.
We will.
Thank Patty when I see her. Wow.
No, you see that in some of the galleries sometimes. I always go in and go, where are the female artists?
Yeah.
And some have less than others.
Well, and, I hate to say this, but, some of the worst chauvinists are women. And, gallery owners, women like to promote men. And, it's a power thing. It gives women power to promote men.
Oh, I haven't thought about that. Learn something new, Dave. Many new things. Huh. Well, thank you.
You
Thank
get my
you,
biases.
That's okay, we all have, I think we all do. It's
Well,
just how
you know-
we use, how we behave is
Yeah.
different than attitude, I think.
The fact that, I'm not accepted in some of the good old boys club, that doesn't stop me from painting. I mean, thank God.
Good.
And
That's
maybe
right.
there are some good things with that. I don't know.
Yeah, in a way, I'm glad, I see some artists that had easy fame, and it spoiled, they just can't turn out paintings fast enough.
Yeah,
And I never, the fact that I'm not famous gives me freedom.
That's great. All right.
Well, I
Thank
think
you,
that's
thank
when artists try to change their style.
For
Didn't
sure.
Amy Ringholt said that when she tried to change? People wanted the old thing. They didn't want
Yeah.
the newer 2.0,
And I know Bob Kuhn felt that pressure too from selling, oh, well, I want a painting like so-and-so has.
Yeah.
Oh, that would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
And gallery people tend to tell artists what to paint because they think that's what sells. And with my work, I never understood it. I always have educational things in my painting. Something's happening, either in the habitat or interaction between the animals and all. So all this educational stuff. And gallery owners don't want to use that. And I think it's a huge selling point.
It is.
But they just want to hang it on the wall and, if it connects, but they don't do any salesmanship on it. Thank you for having me. Enjoyed it.
I totally look at it different.
Yeah, yes.
It's very different.
Very different than when Tucker took us through.
Yeah.
We learned a lot.
Yeah, well, maybe it's easier for another artist to come in and talk about it.
Maybe it is.
Yeah,
It
I
probably
would
is.
feel that way too. I mean, I can always talk about my artwork, but then I don't think I could promote it like I can Tucker. Another artist, it's so easy to talk about another artist and say what you like.
That's right.
And with mine, I'm trying to, it's sort of like I'm trying to sell myself or something. I'm not good at that.
Well,
You
you
don't have
see
to
it from a
use it, so-
different perspective.